Well, thank you all so much for coming to our South Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture Candidates Forum. I'm Stephanie Sox, Director of Promotion and Education for South Carolina Farm Bureau, and I'll be moderating the forum today. We have 6 candidates joining us, and I'll let them introduce themselves to you here in just a moment. The Department of Agriculture is an essential state agency that not only supports our state's farmers through marketing efforts, but also ensures the citizens of South Carolina have a safe food supply, among many other regulatory functions. For the first time in more than 2 decades, the agency will be under new leadership, and today we will hear from 6 of the 7 candidates running for the office. For the format of this forum, each candidate will have 1 minute to deliver opening remarks. At the conclusion of the opening remarks, we will begin questions. We have randomly assigned the order in which the questions will be answered, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions. And our lovely timekeeper will hold up a 15-second sign and then a time sign, and then we will move on. All right, again, in random order, we will begin with Mr. Danny Ford for your 1 minute introduction.
I'm Danny Lee Ford II. My parents moved here back in 1979, and my dad called my mom and told her that had good news and bad news. And said, well, what's the good news? So I got a coaching job. Said, what's the bad news? Said, well, it's in Clemson, South Carolina. Nobody knew where that was at the time. So we've been farming ever since my dad got out of coaching. I've been, every facet of my life has been affected by the Department of Agriculture, and I've seen the things that we need to work on through that department, mainly, helping these farmers out, being a resource for them. Right now, our average age of the farmer is 67 years old. 9% is only 35 and under, so we've got a lot of work to do to bring some kids into this industry, because right now a lot of our food comes from out of this country. It originates there, and we need to be self-sustained as much as possible in South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Chris Nelums.
My name is Chris Nelums. I'm a resident of this state, South Carolina, that I love. I've been married for 44 years. I have 16 grands, 4 sets of grand twins. And I enjoy South Carolina. I also pastor. I've been pastoring for over 43 years, and I've been self-employed for 40 years. So I am aware of the plight of South Carolina, what's going on in South Carolina. I met a good many people. This is my 3rd time running as the Commissioner of Agriculture. Hugh is gone, and I look at some of the things that he's done in this state, and he's done an excellent job, whether y'all know it or not. And 15 seconds. So one of the things that always excites me about him is that he always used to sing at the Carolina lighting. And I guess y'all gonna have to learn how to sing. I can sing because I'm a pastor.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Michael Sullens.
Hello, my name is Michael Sullens. I'm an operator. I spent my life pretty much in the trenches on the opposite end of the farmers, serving the food that they grow. So I understand the struggles when you try to make money count that isn't there. I know the Department of Agriculture is a unique situation right now because they took on a much broader base in 2024, and I'm looking forward to the future of that. That's all I've got to say.
All right, thank you. DeShawn Blanding.
Good afternoon. I'm DeShawn Blanding. I hail from the Silver community of Clarendon County, South Carolina, where my family has been since enslavement. My grandfather was a 4th-generation farmer, and my mother's side were farm workers, so I always grew up with agriculture in my blood. But like so many across the state, I didn't get to grow up on the farm. I grew up where the farm used to be. My grandfather passed in '93. He told his kids to find another industry because he knew how hard the road had been for him as a farmer in South Carolina. And so this is personal to me. This work is personal in that I've been pursuing it since I was 14 years old. When it was in the FFA, served as a chapter president, state vice president, and then in 2016, was elected as the first national FFA officer from the state of South Carolina since 1967. And I have been advocating for agriculture ever since, traveling across this nation. And so I'm looking forward to this discussion today to be able to share the vision that we have for agriculture and how we can become from being seventh in the nation for worst food insecurity to number one in the best food security.
Thank you. Jeremy Cannon.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Cannon. I'm from Tuberville, South Carolina, Clarendon County, Speed Trap Town. I've been married to my wife, Lacey, 22 years, who is here with me. Based on her face, I'm not sure we're going to make it to 44, so I'm proud of you to do that. I think this candidacy may impact how much longer we get there. And our miracle child, Blaine, is 16, and great to have them here. I am a fourth-generation farmer. It's all I've ever known, all I've ever done. I've had my hands in the dirt since I was a kid. I've loved it. There's something about the smell and working with your hands, and it's just special to me. But I learned that Columbia and agriculture needed a voice here in Columbia. 2016, I learned I could be that voice. I got the Grassroots Award from Farm Bureau for helping pass the Farm Aid Fund.
Thank you. And finally, Fred West.
Fred West, lifelong South Carolinian. Grew up in what I would kind of call a difficult family situation. So as a high schooler, I know what it was like to be hungry. I know what it was like to not know where we were going to sleep. Worked myself through college, met my wife, Michelle. She's here 36 years. Have 2 kids, a son who's a doctor and a daughter who works for a nonprofit down in Charleston. I was not born into a farming family. In 1999, I had a friend call me to go talk to the folks at Amick Farms, and at that moment when I took that job, looking back now, I see how South Carolina agriculture changed my life. It gave me opportunities. So I started off as VP of HR, but took on just about every other duty, responsibility as an executive in that company, and we grew from 1 plant to 3 plants, 3,500 people processing 4 million birds a week and selling product all over the world. So I feel like I have a debt. That's why I'm running. And I'm excited to share some of the vision and topics we're going to cover today.
All right. Thank you all very much. Let's get into these questions. And again, I would encourage you to keep your remarks directed toward the audience as this is a forum, not a debate. All right. For our first question, we're going to talk about the role of the office. List the top 3 responsibilities of the Commissioner of Agriculture and tell us how you will spend your time on each. And for this one, we'll go to Mr. Sullens first.
So the top 3 things is after the merger, we really have to bridge the gap between all the new responsibilities the department took over. We have to make it easier for farmers to sell to restaurants and end consumers, reduce the friction so we can cut out the middleman. We have to promote the department more so people realize what all we do now, because since the merger, a lot of people don't know. They know who we are, but they don't know exactly everything we do. Thank you.
All right, next let's hear from Mr. Cannon.
I would say number one, well, not necessarily in this order, but obviously consumer protection, and talking with Commissioner Derek Underwood about the things that where we can work on food safety, things that we can improve on, things that maybe are hindering our growth and hindering production, things that are holding us back, but also keeping our food safe and secure. Also legislative affairs, talking with Clint Leitz there, and what are some laws that are merely red tape? What are some things that maybe we could sunset? So things that are maybe hindering our growth, hindering production, hindering infrastructure and processing that we desperately need in our state. And ultimately, speaking with Aaron Wood there, Commissioner there, Assistant Commissioner, and let's consumer, creating markets. What can we do to promote South Carolina better in our state?
Thank you. Mr. Blanding?
First is making sure we have a strong and resilient agricultural economy. We need to be making sure that we're actually providing the support and the structure so that farmers can have the system that supports them and not hurts them. Secondly is ensuring that we have a fair and functional food system. You know, we rank 7th in the nation for worst food security. We can do better than that. And I believe agriculture, as Commissioner of Agriculture, on day one, our focus would be making sure we have the processing and the procurement that we need in order to get food from production to the people. And then also making sure the marketplace is fair for our farmers. That was the story of my grandfather, why he told his kids not to go into agriculture, because the marketplace was not fair for him. And then also that consumers trust the system. And then lastly, being the lead advocate and leader for the Department of Agriculture. We know agriculture is the largest industry in the state, but we need to make sure we have an advocate who has experience working with legislators. And as someone who worked in Congress for both the House and the Senate committees on agriculture in DC, I know how to make sure we have a voice for agriculture.
Thank you. Mr. Ford?
They all bring up very good points on the different things that the South Carolina Department of Ag does. You know, I'm not going to break into each one because they've already told them to you and we have limited time. I'd like for the farmers to be able to produce for their community. It's become increasingly hard through labeling, advertising, different things for our farmers to produce for their community. It's going to take real community cohesion to come back and be able to get to where we were. Heard it put the other day that farmers are not like they're trying to save the leg that they're lost. They're trying to get from losing another one. So we have to put things in place like mobile processors. We've got to have grading for our beef. We have to have prime grading. If you eat a prime steak, it usually comes from out of this state. That's a $4 disadvantage that all of our farmers, cattle farmers, put up with from the very beginning. And then I'd like to update the app where we can upload live inventories and consumers can put their wants up.
Thank you. Mr. West?
First would be, I think the commissioner really has to be someone who is unifying the people of agriculture. You know, in business, I learned very quickly as you got bigger, the natural instinct of humans is to race out of order. And we've got to pull the different pieces of ag together because they're all different. They all are driven by different things. And even the outside organizations, I look at Farm Bureau and what it does for ag in our state. That's something I want to make sure we're staying connected. I think the second thing would be we've got to serve and support our farmers specifically in their business markets. You know, we've got the best farmers in the nation, so we don't have a farming problem, but we do have a business problem right now. There aren't enough markets for our farmers to really prosper. So I think that's the second thing I would really say is a responsibility. The third would be our consumer protection division has to be best in class. People don't know it's happening, but it has to happen. All those three things, I think the one word I would say is you always think every day, how do we make those better as we go about doing what we're doing?
Thank you. And finally, we'll hear from Mr. Nelums.
Thank you. I think y'all touched on just about everything that needs to be said, but there are some other things that we need to really take a look at. And so we have to think outside the box, and that's been one of the problems that we've had in the state of South Carolina, is dealing with issues outside of the box, those that will cause us some discomfort. So the first thing I look at is the administration. And I look at how we govern those that we are over. And one of the problems we have sometimes is retention. Folks staying in the jobs long enough and being satisfied with the jobs that they have. That's one of the issues. And most of us talk about food insecurity, but if you travel the state of South Carolina, there are some teardrop situations that are going on as we speak. And we don't never, and I guess what happens is we look at it as a whole and say we're doing fine. I read where South Carolina ag, the collards and the mustard greens and turnip greens are #1 in the country. And yet we still have folk that are not eating at night. That's one issue. Time.
Thank you. All right, let's move to the second question about consumer protection. Do you believe that current food safety regulations are adequate or too strict? Is there a regulation you would like to change? If yes, please explain why. Let's start with Mr. Blanding.
I think we need to have a delicate balance between our regulations that we have for on our farms and farmers, and then also making sure we have public trust and safety when it comes to our food security. And so when we think about this question of food safety regulations, I think it's making sure we're walking that line very strictly, making sure when we look at food safety regulations, we're not overly burdening, especially small and mid-sized farmers. You know, larger farms can actually absorb some of that compliance cost. The small and mid-sized farmers, that cost can actually cause them to go into bankruptcy, which we're seeing across the state. You know, we have in the nation 49% increase in bankruptcies in the last year when it comes to farms foreclosures. And so we need to begin to think about what barriers are we creating for farmers. So I do think one of the major things we should be doing is making sure we have public trust through regulations, but also making sure we're not creating more burdens or barriers.
Thank you. Mr. Sullens?
I think the biggest question to ask in this is, do the consumers trust the inspection and what the department's doing? Because a lot of times right now, what I see when I talk to people is they don't have trust in the system, and we need to bring that trust back. I have a program called the Trusted Partner Program that I came up with, and it would be one of the first things that I would implement if I took office, and to restore that trust in the food safety program. So I think it is a delicate balance. You want to make sure everything is safe, but you also want to provide that balance for the farmers, the retail, the consumers, and everything.
Thank you. Mr. West?
You know, in my career at AMIC, most of the compliance departments reported to me, and they're unique and different in how you lead them, because again, if you back away too far, they're naturally going to fall either to too hard or to too soft. So it really takes spending time with the leaders who are running those compliance organizations to make sure you're tracking right. I would tell you that it's funny with regulations. It's the regulation, but it's also the interpretation of the regulation that can make a difference. And sometimes you have to work on the consistency of that you're doing it the same for everyone. I'm a big believer in, from time to time, sitting down and reviewing where we are and what's really working. We did that in poultry. We did it with our customers. We did it with USDA. I know recently the department spent time with one of the restaurant associations asking the question, what would you like to get rid of? What makes no sense anymore? And I think that's key, because things do change. Businesses are just as much, and farmers are just as much dedicated to safety as we are. We've just got to work with them.
Thank you. Mr. Nelums?
Yes, I think we do need to reevaluate all of our situations in terms of regulations. I think what happens more often, we let things run on for a while. And I think about some of the legislation that's going on, and I'm an advocate for hemp in South Carolina. I'm one of those ones that talk about hemp every day because I like and love what hemp does. And I think sometimes hemp get a bad rap because law enforcement looks at it from a different perspective. And I think that's one crop that's a saving grace here in South Carolina. And one of the things that I think about history, back in the 1700s, it was required that each farmer grow at least 1 acre of hemp. And now we've gotten away from that. And I think hemp is a saving grace for us with food, with clothing, with medicine, and we call it industrial hemp. So I'm excited about what we can do, but we do need to reevaluate it each and every time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Cannon?
Yes, I believe we do need to look at some of these regulations and see the efficacy of them, the necessity of them. Are they needed? How much have changed today, and what can we change to make it easier, simpler to have the safest food in the world? Now, one thing I think that we could change that has been difficulty on my farm as a farmer is GAP and FSMA. 2 different programs. One of them is free, one of them you have to pay for. But both of them on food safety. There's no reason that a farmer, such as myself, is having to pay $1,000, $2,000 to inspect, for them to come out and inspect the food so I can sell it into a grocery store. So there are some huge issues there that are keeping farmers from being able to sell to locals. I think there are some things that we can fix and make it simpler.
Thank you. And Mr. Ford?
I think that they're overburdensome. You know, if you just look at it from the beef aspect, as a farmer, I can go sell a whole beef to somebody and they can kill it, but it has to be USDA inspected. Well, you can't get a date to get it USDA inspected and killed. So we are hurting our farmers through our regulations. You know, speaking back to that comes of 65% of your food originates out of this country. It is easier for them to bring it over here and get it in the stores than it is us. We have to give our farmers a seat at the table. We have to build things like mobile processors. We have to have a South Carolina distribution for South Carolina products. These farms are too small to be able to get a seat at that table. So, you know, another thing is these kids that are coming in, 9% at 35 and under, they're not going to know how to deal with these regulatory hiccups. We do, and unless they get involved and teach them, they're going to have a hard time.
Thank you very much. Question 3, labs and infrastructure. The Department of Agriculture also serves the taxpayers of South Carolina through its Consumer Protection Division. However, many South Carolinians may not be aware of the services the department provides. How do you show the department's value to the average citizen? For this one, we will hear from Mr. Cannon first.
Well, I would like to have a state of agriculture, much like we have the state of the state. I would like to have it every year. I remember back when we had the Ag Biz in Florence, Commissioner Weathers would come and talk at the breakfast. He would kind of give us an outlay of what was going on in the state of agriculture. I think, but it was mainly for ag-related people. I think we need to get a televised event. I would love to have that. And once a year, not just for ag people. I think every consumer, every person in South Carolina needs to know the impact that agriculture and timber has on our state.
Mr. Ford?
So social media is the answer right now. All people are on social media all the time. Marketing through social media is absolutely huge. You know, to go back to the last thing I talked about, how many people do you know that get sick eating deer meat during deer season? That is processed in South Carolina. It's a healthier food. We have to get back to local. Our communities have to support that. The education on that is how we bring them together. People need to be involved with their food. There's a cost for convenience now, and there's a cost for the future. We're paying for it right now. Our kids are going to pay for it in the future. So we need to bring it back to South Carolina. We need a lot more self-sustainability, because we all have a responsibility to give our kids better than we have. And right now we're going down a road that they are going to be worse off through the data centers, solar developments, all those things.
Thank you. Mr. Nelums?
I like that question because it talks to the average citizen. And that means that you have to go 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 levels down because of the way our system is in the state of South Carolina, where in terms of communicating to people. As the chief person, which is the head, one of the things that person has to do is make himself more visible. And then set up different areas throughout the state of South Carolina where he can pop in and sit down and talk with folk one-on-one, eye to eye. You know, what we call that town hall type experience. And now, once you start that, what'll happen is folks will gravitate towards that. They know that meeting every month gonna be in Florence. Every month gonna be in Greenville. Every month gonna be in Columbia. And folks start to pay attention to what's going on. That means that commissioner is concerned about the common man. That's important. And what happens to us, I mean, we bring about a family atmosphere. That's what it is. And so,
Thank you. Mr. Blanding?
Yeah, as I've been traveling up and down South Carolina, seeing this beautiful state, I've been seeing or asking this question as I meet with folks. And I'm not going to ask it here because I think I know the answer, but how many of you know what the Commissioner of Agriculture is? And most people don't have any idea what that position is. And so it's not just in this, I'm learning on this campaign trail, not just getting DeShawn Blanding's name out, but it's actually socializing agriculture to everyday folks. Most people in South Carolina are not farmers, right? Only less than 2% of South Carolinians are farmers. And so we need to make sure we're bringing agriculture to our communities. There are a few things we can be doing to get that done. One is actually similar to the town hall, but partnering with or having regionalized system where we can actually have listening sessions with the community to talk about what's going on in agriculture. Secondly is looking at digital tools to be able to get the word out through media. And then lastly, making sure that the certifications that we're providing is actually visible and so that the farmers can actually have boosting in their markets when it comes to getting the word out to folks.
Thank you. Mr. West.
This is a classic ag problem, like I saw it as soon as I got into agriculture, and that people just don't know what they don't know. So I think there's a component of always teaching, promoting, marketing what you're doing. Even like in a company, you're always trying to preach and teach your employees or the people you're working with of all the benefits of being there. And I think that's one of the things we can do and do better. I think that most people drift away from it, right? The minute you don't have to worry about it, you just don't think about it, which is good because it shows there's a system there that works, right? People don't have to worry about it. So I think there's some repetition we have to do, opportunity to, again, preach and teach everywhere we go. And honestly, the biggest thing you could do in preaching and teaching is explain to somebody the why. Why do we do this? And why is this important to you? And why does it really matter? So I think a lot of it goes back to the marketing component.
Thank you. And Mr. Sullens.
I think we face two separate issues. When I talk to people, everybody knows what the Department of Agriculture SIL is. They see it every day, everywhere they go. But when you talk about the Commissioner of Agriculture, they don't really know what it is, but they have immense interest. So I think you have to tie those two together. And I think you do that. I said it before in my previous statement, is trust. If they know when they see that seal that the gas is clean, that the scale is right, that the food is safe, I think you've solved the problem. You don't have to market it. If they have trust in the system, that's all they really need.
All right, thank you. Next question is on markets. What percentage of food purchased for state institutions like schools should come from South Carolina farms, and how will you get there? Let's start with Mr. West for this one.
So I don't have a specific percentage because I like the ability for businesses to find those places and for customers to find those businesses to use. But I'll give you an example of my year and a half with the department. When I worked in the marketing department, one of the things we realized quickly was your school system serves about 110 million meals a year during the school year. We lost federal funding for some of the local food to school, and I came up with a draft that was basically the certified SC cafeteria program. Took it to the commissioner, and Clint went to the state legislature and actually got $1 million a year reoccurring to give to us that we give to schools to buy South Carolina products. And the interesting thing about that is your institutions, getting around the schools, they're your SFA, school food authorities, that's the people in the districts that are buying this food. They want local. The cafeteria staff, they want local. The parents, they want local. The students want local. So it's a great opportunity if we could just build those pathways for prosperity for those farms to really get involved in that.
Thank you. Next, we go to Mr. Blanding.
Yeah, I think you have to start off with one of my managers gave me this quote when I was younger, know what you don't know. And we don't actually know what percentage of food is purchased in South Carolina. It's been something, we know about 32% of agribusiness stays within the state, but that includes forestry, which is 45% of the industry. And so when we think about this question, we have to first start off with an assessment and an analysis of what actually are we keeping within the state of South Carolina, but also as it relates to how do we do that. We have to work with our universities across the state to actually to collect that information and then create programs. When I was on the federal level, we had the Local Food Purchasing Agreement Program, LFPA. We created and we advocated for and got it in this Farm Bill iteration that would actually work with local farmers, connect them to local institutions, to create a direct-to-consumer program where the state will purchase food and redistribute it, and then also connect them to local institutions for relationship-building purposes. So we can do better with collecting that information to have a better understanding. I'm a policy nerd, so I love data, so definitely want to get that information.
Thank you. Mr. Sullens?
Well, I would say that we could reach, nobody else has given a number, I'll give a number, I'll say 25%. But to reach that number, we have to build the infrastructure in South Carolina. We have to have mini hubs to process this food. We have to have value-added processing. And if we build the infrastructure, then it's only going to make common sense to buy local because it's going to be the most convenient, it's going to be the cheapest, and it's what everybody already wants to begin with. So when you add all those together, I think you could surpass that number, but I think it's a realistic number.
Thank you. Mr. Ford?
I'm going to guess a little bit less than that. I'm pretty sure that Greenville and some outside areas are leading the charge on that. I think there's a big initiative brought there. I see it as a rural fix first. That's the easiest place for us to get the best food to the kids and prove what the community can do for the schools. But a no-brainer for me with only having 18 dairies left in the South Carolina is get these kids all South Carolina milk. I mean, it just seems like the natural place to start with them having so much trouble through the years. But it should be 100%. I mean, that's, if there's any other conflict all over the world or the country, it will directly affect our kids. If we can feed them through our state programs and farmers, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon?
Well, I'd like to see the number somewhere around 110% as a farmer. Just because we have the ability. We have the best farmers, we have the best dirt, we have the knowledge, the experience. Why are we not doing it? Why are we not putting South Carolina first? I'm thankful for America First, but we are promoting more stuff imported than stuff that's grown in our state. It's going to take some infrastructure. It's going to take some work. We can't do it overnight. But I want to put South Carolina farmers first because that's what, I mean, that is food security. If we can keep it in state, it keeps the money in state, it circulates, it just adds to our economy. So the higher the number, the better. I feel like we should be supporting here at home.
Finally, Mr. Nelums?
Yes, thank you. And I said 100%. And I ask you that you think back, those that can think back through history where we started from in terms of how we fed our youth in school. Those that worked in the cafeteria, they had to cook the food. And they had to prepare the food. And we need to get back to that. And the only way that we can get back to that is that we have to go back to the system that we had before. Now, that doesn't mean that things does not advance. It just means that if we think through the process, it's not that hard. Collard greens are collard greens. Cabbage is cabbage. So what we're doing is we're creating more than what it really is. And I think 100%, if we go back to where we come from, that will also employ, because we need to have these folk that are on the street employed. So that's going to kill two birds.
Thank you. The next question is about attracting industry, that'd be agricultural industry. Should the Department of Agriculture lead recruitment of ag businesses, or should commerce, and why? And we're going to start with you again, Mr. Nelums.
Thank you. I think it's a dual role, of course, and I'm going to say this, the Commissioner of Agriculture is the lead salesman in the state of South Carolina. In fact, his face should be plastered on every signpost. And he should have some marketing skills. He should have some sales skills. He needs to have the ability to talk with large corporations as well as the small farmer, as well as the restaurant owner. He should have the ability to put a sales program together for the state of South Carolina that will bring in additional revenue. And so he has to have the ability to sit down with folk, accountants, and look at and put out good projections and let folk know where their money is being spent, number one, and also how he can increase through sales. Sales is going to be the key. And so he has to think outside the box. And that's where we will increase in terms of sales, in terms of employment, in terms of retention. I mean.
Thank you. Mr. Ford?
This is where I differ from a lot of most. I've watched big business come in and rip our farmers off and figure out exactly what margins we make. I mean, our beef industry, processing industry is all tied up by the big four packers. The seed companies have gone from thousands to 4. I mean, we have got to stop letting big business come in and take over our farms. It's out of hand. If you go to John Deere, you buy a tractor for $150,000, and then you turn around and go buy the parts and build that tractor by yourself, it's going to cost you $750,000 to $1 million. These big businesses have come in and figured out how to profit on us, and we can no longer grow scale to grow profit. Now we are hurt. So I see it putting in the small business hands, mobile processors, different things to get the community involved. I've seen it go way the wrong way of Brazilian-owned companies coming in and controlling our food supply.
Thank you. Mr. Sullens?
I'm going to kind of continue on that same note because I see the same problems. And I think one way to do it is let the retail industry guide attracting industry. If you take a local grocer like Publix, they want to sell local food because people want to buy local food, but they have a hard time getting it because we don't have the infrastructure. If we fix the red tape and the permitting where we can fast track it, and a company like Publix says, hey, we need this mini hub, we've got a farmer, we've got everything lined up, the Department of Agriculture should be able to fast track that and get it in place. And retail will bring in the good industry, not the bad industry that we want.
Thank you. Mr. Blanding?
Yeah, I think we need a delicate balance as well with this. I think when it comes to agriculture and commerce, and it's specifically referring to recruitment, we need to make sure that agriculture is leading the charge on issues related to agriculture. And we are working with commerce because commerce has its place. They are good at infrastructure and they have expertise that could be valuable in this conversation. But we need to make sure, as it relates to recruitment, agriculture has a place in that because similar to what's been said, we can easily wash out small and mid-sized farmers when we begin to attract too many large businesses that are not rooted here in South Carolina. So we need to make sure the agriculture commissioner is seated at that table to provide that perspective of farmers, of our food system leaders, of our local communities, and making sure that the conversation is not steered to so much recruitment that we forget about what's happening here at home. So we need to actually be a part of that conversation and not sideline or an afterthought, which is a problem now. We need to be co-leaders in that conversation.
Thank you. Mr. West?
If I'm Commissioner of Agriculture, I will lead that charge. At AMIC, we had one plant through the years. We purchased 2 plants, probably looked at 8. I was on the mergers and acquisition team, and it was actually very interesting to sit across the table when you're thinking about spending $100 million at the commissioner across the table or the state officials or the city officials on how people really recruited well, and then some just didn't recruit well at all. So there's definitely a component there of economic development dollars. But the bigger thing that matters when you're investing that much money into a state is you want a relationship, right? You build that relationship, you get to know people, and you make sure they know we will be there for you. Our Maryland plant that would have closed in 6 months, the town basically said, please, whatever you need, come here, we will support you. And for the years that we've owned it, it's been that way. I'm the only candidate that's been in that seat who's actually seen recruiting going on to attract. If we don't get industry here and processing here, nothing will get better for our farmers.
Thank you. And finally, let's hear from Mr. Cannon.
When I'm looking at this question, I'm thinking, ¿cómo mandas a alguien a ir a hablar con otra persona y si esa persona no sabe el idioma? That's the problem. They don't know the language. How are you going to send the Commerce Department to speak for agriculture when they don't know the language? I know the language. In 2017, I flew to Canada on a farmer dime, and I brought back a contract for South Carolina cucumbers in 24 hours. Met with the buyer there, convinced him that he needed to be buying South Carolina cucumbers. That contract was for 150 acres of South Carolina cucumbers. That was in 17. In 18, it was 500 acres. Last year, it was almost 3,000 acres. It's a $5 million revenue generator for farmers in South Carolina. But it took somebody who saw a need, but also someone willing to work on the need and who spoke the language.
Thank you very much. Our next question is about saving existing agriculture. South Carolina farmers are facing a financial crisis that has the potential to significantly alter the landscape of agriculture in our state moving forward. The Senate has adopted a proviso to provide emergency funding to our farmers. What is your position on the appropriation, and what would your office do to support South Carolina's agricultural industry during times of potential crisis in the future? And we'll go back to you, Mr. Cannon.
All right. Rick and Gary, I apologize ahead of time, and your team, it's not enough. As a farmer, it's not enough. I'm thankful for President Ott and his vision and I understand the process and the formula, how he came up with the number, and the simplicity of getting the money out, the probability of getting it passed. But we have given billions to other industries, billions. 1.3 to Scout, 150 more million or 200 million, whatever number may be that's been additionally requested. BMW, Volvo, Boeing, you name it. But it is a gift if ag gives anything. We got to start putting some money toward agriculture.
Thank you. Mr. Sullens.
I agree, it's not enough. In a way, we've helped create the crisis with regulations, restricting who they can sell to, how they can sell. It's not giving them the money. We owe it to them because we're partially responsible for it. But I think going forward, we need to fix those things that can be removed so they can cut out the middleman, sell directly to the end consumer, or find other avenues, have better infrastructure for value added, so we're not in this situation again. So that they will be future things that we might have to deal with, but we need to fix the situation so it is the last time we really have a major disaster on our hands.
Mr. Ford.
I was involved in Helene, and I was a pilot that flew back and forth a lot of different supplies to the community up there. And I apologize, I've been running this race, so I have not dug into the legislature. I know what they've said through the news. Our farmers will take anything that you'll give us to help. We don't want subsidies. We want markets, and we want to work. We need our community to come around us, just like up there. There was certain places, FEMA, different things. We were sitting there feeding 1,500 people a day. It's just not enough. When I got my bridge payment, got $200. It wasn't enough to pay for the seed that went in the ground. So we do appreciate it, and we'll take anything that comes our way to try to keep us going. But there's got to be a fix through markets and through the community to build this. We are way too dependent on outside people, on our food, on commodities. We need a place in South Carolina to get rid of our products.
Thank you. Mr. Nelums.
Thank you. When I look at this question, a couple of things come to my mind. One of the issues that we do have in South Carolina is that our legislatures have pinned us in a corner. I'm talking about the state of South Carolina. And whenever we don't deliver, or we're not able to deliver, or something happens, it's a bailout. And I don't believe anybody wants a bailout. I think we really do want to work, and all of y'all are correct in us working. And I think sometimes we miss out on an untapped resource that we have, and that's people. We don't think about it, but our resource here in South Carolina is that we have people that genuinely want to work together and genuinely want the best for each other. And so that means that we have to broaden our horizon. We got to bring some walls down and start looking at this thing objectively and saying we're all going to work together. and we all can rise together, and we can all make it together. And that's where we are right now. So no, handouts, I have issues with handout when we could have done something much better in the beginning.
Thank you. Mr. Blanding.
I do support the legislation. I think it's important right now. I think, as previously said, it helps bridge the moment we're in right now, but it cannot stop there. We need to actually think about the longevity and the infrastructure and the support and the structure that we build for our farmers. You know, when we think about a program like this or something, appropriations like this is one time. But we need to actually have something that's standing for farmers whenever there is a type of emergency or disaster that happens, and we aren't prepared for it. We should be ready. We should be prepared. We rely so much on our federal response that we don't have the state support and the state readiness that should be in place when moments like this happen. And so Helene was a prime example of that. $600 million plus loss to farmers, but we didn't have the preparation for it. We were relying on federal response and didn't have the state infrastructure. So we need to have a standing program for the commissioner to automatically implement whenever there is economic and environmental disasters. 1929, my granddad lost our farm because of an economic and environmental disaster, and we're seeing things happen again.
Thank you. And Mr. West.
I think the proviso itself, I think, is the right thing to do. I think what it really shows, though, is you've got to be in the State House with them. I think most folks at the General Assembly appreciate ag and want to help ag. And I look at the yeoman's work that Farm Bureau does of being over there for them as a resource. That's one of the things I will want to do as a commissioner is continue the relationships that I've built through the year. I think the word that I would focus on there, though, is crisis, right? There's going to be crisis. I mean, that's just the beauty and beast of ag, is there's going to be stuff that comes up. I think we've got to be better at how we respond to those crises. And it could be something as simple as, for example, my term I would use for moving from business to the agency would be we need to bring the speed of business to things. I heard Aaron Woods talk earlier about how quick he turned around applications for checks for a program. That is a big deal when you're waiting on that check. And I think those things you want to continue and make it better and better and give them the resources that they could do those things faster.
Thank you. Next, let's talk about marketing. South Carolina agriculture is very diverse, and the department has a tall task of helping farmers market a wide variety of commodities. How do you see the department working with commodity boards to expand markets for our state's farmers? And first, we'll go to Mr. Blanding.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think when they look at the commodity boards, one of the main things we need to be seeing at Department of Agriculture as is an amplifier and not necessarily a competitor. You know, there are amazing things we've done. That was, South Carolina certified South Carolina cafeteria was mentioned. There are programs that the South Carolina Beef Council has created on marketing. There are a lot of different disaggregated programs, our marketing programs that are created within the commodity boards, and what the Department of Ag can do is be a centralized voice to uplift a unified message around what South Carolina agriculture entails. We can be a centralized voice that works with the commodity boards and that creates a unified campaign, but also allowing each commodity board to actually have its own marketing programs. Again, that's not competitor, but an amplifier of what's already being created. And so I think that's one of the main things. Then also making sure that whatever we do is getting back down to the producer, and that they're actually seeing the results of us uplifting the different marketing strategies.
Thank you. Mr. Ford.
From what I understand about the commodities, which is probably my worst thing that I know, is we have got to get bulk exporting out of Charleston. That will be the single best thing that we can do for our commodities. On top of that, we have got to have a level playing field. If we ship wood chips to Europe and they won't take our preservative, but we take that exact same preservative, that is not the way it should be. If they are importing stuff into our country, then we should get the exact same rules that they get. So I think that would fix a lot of our commodity issues right now, is bulk exporting and a level playing field. I mean, if you look at what Brazil's done, they've absolutely done a fabulous job at making it easier for their tree farmers to produce in Brazil. We need to do that exact same thing here. We need better plants, mills, different things like that, and use this education that our colleges have gotten to build big plants.
Thank you. Mr. Nelums.
This marketing, one of my loves is marketing. I think one of the things that we really have to do is maybe step back a couple of years and look at how we got to this situation and what can we do to go back. I'm thinking about industry now. And we start talking about commodities, bringing up commodities and industry. I think we can step back. And I'm not talking about step back in time, but step back and look at some of the things that our forefathers done. And take that, and even though we put technology with it, we can take that and bring everyone forward, and that's going to help us with employment, because, I mean, we have a lot of folk that are not employed. We have an immigration problem, so when the immigrants leave, who's going to be here helping with the farms? Who's going to be here helping with some of the other things? So we got an array of things that we have to take in consideration. I think for the most part, we don't think it through, and we have not thought it through. And so sometimes you have to use an exploratory committee to come on and say, we need to look at this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sullens.
Okay, so I think that we need to, there's several layers to this. I don't see why it can't be split up. You've got specialized farmers that invest in innovation and prime that pay into these commodity funds. And if they are marketing themselves, they should get a credit back for that. It's not fair for a small farmer that has to pay into this and then pay their own marketing expense too. That's one of the major concerns I have. There is other reasons to reduce friction, to make it easier for the whole commodities industry as a whole.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon?
I think there's several things that we can do. Obviously, I would, as commissioner, I'd love to be the man in the room with all these commodity boards. As a farmer, I've grown about everything. Anything that you can grow and lose money at, I've done it. I've seen it. I've lived it. I've grown 6 different types of row crops. We were historically tobacco till 2022, but I've also grown 20-some items worth of produce. And I've been out here on the market. In 2015, I came here with some pickles, and I had no idea what I was doing or how to get rid of them, but I knew I needed to sell them because I knew I had bills to pay. So, but I would love to sit down with all these commodity boards and hear their thoughts. You know, where can we help you? You know, maybe it's infrastructure, maybe it's, you know, getting it to consumers through schools or whatnot, but just listening and, you know, figuring out what, some's going to be short term, some's going to be long term. We're going to find answers to help all consumers, all farmers.
Thank you. Mr. West?
So the term South Carolina agriculture is very diverse. It's really an understatement. You know, South Carolina agriculture is so diverse that it is complex and almost chaotic, right? So again, it's about getting the right players at the table. If you look at our system, you've got the Ag Commission and the commodity boards. They are appointed by the governor and then administrated by the department. I believe it's an underutilized source of knowledge and expertise. I think we've got to pull groups together to really listen and understand so that we can make best decisions. So your Ag Commission is really the macro, looking at the industry in a macro kind of vision, and then your commodities are a micro vision. So you've got 2 pieces there that really, I think if you bring them together and you're working together, I think you'll end up with better decisions and better opportunities going down the road for farmers.
Thank you. All right, our next question is about leadership. Commissioner Weathers has provided steady leadership at the South Carolina Department of Agriculture for over 2 decades. On day 1, how do you assure staff that you, too, will provide steady leadership for them and the organization? And for this one, I'd like to start with Mr. Sullens.
Commissioner Weather, he's done a great job for 20 years providing the steady leadership we need. But in 2026, the department's a completely different animal. And so we need to take it into a different direction, and we need to unify all these different departments together so they communicate. So it's not very useful to have everything under one roof if nobody talks to each other. And I think that's the biggest thing going forward to show leadership, is to get every different department to communicate so everybody knows what everybody's doing, and it will move us farther faster.
Mr. West.
I think I'm the only candidate that has actually showed up at a place and said, congratulations, you've been bought, or you're new employers. So I've been in that situation, and the human nature in change or crisis is to think about self. What's this doing to me? How does this affect me? And I give you a good example. When we bought Laurel, Mississippi, a plant in Laurel, Mississippi, I think it was 700 employees. I sat down with every single employee in 4 days. So I wanted them to know, we want you here, we need you here, we're going to be okay. Yeah, there'll be some changes, but we're going to work through this. So I think the first thing is to spend time with the 250, almost, depending, could be 300 people that you need to sit down and talk with, and just reset that change is hard, right? It's just human nature. So I think that's one thing that I think is important going forward, is to never miss out on loving up on your team and making sure they feel a part of that team.
Thank you. Mr. Ford.
Yeah, like everybody said, Mr. Weathers has done a great job, and I believe he's put a good team in place. He's decided to step down, which gives opportunity for somebody else, and that means that no one that is running has served before. Anybody is going to have a hill to climb to get them working for them. It's going to be an adjustment. First thing that I did when I thought I wanted to run was reach out to Clint Leach and Derek Underwood, and they both assured me that they would do anything that they could to make me successful if I was in that seat. Having the approval of the management sure helps in that. Other than that, it's showing up day by day and getting every person to let them understand that you're here for the right reasons and you want to build them up right alongside farmers. People want to help people. You got to give them the tools to be able to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon.
Well, a few things. Obviously, when I thought about running, had actually put my name out there, I actually called Aaron Wood and I asked him, I said, what is the position of the commissioners and the people there? Are they planning on staying? What could you see you working under me? And I had assurances that team wants to stay. So that core group wants to see agriculture, South Carolina agriculture, most importantly, survive and thrive. Not be steady, but to be sustainable, to be something that we could see pushed into the next decade and more decades, just to grow and expand more markets, more for South Carolina farmers. So the one thing that I could tell them is that ought to be enough is I have served as the chairman of a Free Baptist church board of 18 people, and they all have different issues, different thoughts on how to spend the money, but we all came together, and so that's my leadership.
Thank you. Mr. Blanding.
I think back to my ag teacher and his quote that resonates with me today still, and it's my philosophy in leadership. Leadership is setting an example for others to emulate. So leadership is really just about service. And so when you think about being a leader in this role, I think back to starting up my cooperatively owned business that I run now. We have about 10 folks who work with me, and everyone came from very stable jobs before they came to this startup organizations that's pretty rocky. And so as any startup, we have a lot of bumps and hills to climb to try to get to success that we envision. But I reassure all of our team that as your president, as your founding partner, I will make sure we're working together, we sink and swim together, and making sure we start by listening to the needs and the concerns. We then move to learning from the expertise of folks on the team, and then move into honoring. This job is about public service, working in the Department of Agriculture, so honoring the work that everyone's committed to serving the public. I'm in public service my whole career, and so I do believe in continuing that through, as the leader, making sure we reassure folks that listening, learning, and honoring.
Thank you. Mr. Nelums.
Yes, thank you. As I reflect back as a pastor, and I pastored in the Methodist Church for over 30-some years, and we moved around. And we had an old saying, your friend is my friend and your enemy is my friend. And so I don't look at change. I look at going in and working with folk, finding them right where they are, and being a rock for them. And then it's not about changing. It's about what can we do better to increase and serve this state called South Carolina. And so I get excited about getting into a situation where I'm able to meet new people, being able to work with them, and also energize them and give them something to hope for. And Weathers did an excellent job with what he had. Amen? And guess what? It's going to get better. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about the fact that it's going to be a new day, but we don't have to change anything. Leave it right where it is and let us grow from there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, our final question is about agency vision. In your first 6 months in office, what is the single most important thing you will accomplish, and what are the first 3 steps you will take to get it done? And for this question, we go to Mr. Ford first.
I really think the app's a great idea. I think it lets us bridge the gap from producer to consumer. So I would like to see everyone be able, as a producer, be able to upload a live inventory and consumers to be able to list wants. We speculate like heck at the beginning of every year, knowing what to produce. If we know what our community expects for us, that will be a huge leg up for us to know that we have people in the community looking at something. If we have a buyer as a farmer, that is one of the first things that we look for. To have a buyer that we can be dependent on across the street would just be a gift from God. So I see us putting these different things in place, South Carolina distribution for South Carolina grown, the app, these things to be able to bridge the gap for the community. And then the community is going to have to show up and be the support for those farmers. It's just a lot like from the cotton days to the textile mills. The cotton farmers planted the cotton, and textile mills appreciated the farmers because that's where their work came from. So we have to get back to that as a state.
Thank you. Mr. Sullens.
Well, I think the most important thing in the first 6 months is bridge that gap from the farm to the retail establishment, whether it's the consumer, the grocery store, or the restaurant. And that'll fix a lot of the issues that's been brought up, because the farmer's going to know what to grow. If we quit sending our produce out of state to be processed, to ship back, and we build local infrastructure, then that is one of the most important things we can do 6 months and going forward.
Thank you. Mr. West.
We've gotten really good as a state at recruiting planes, trains, and automobiles, right? Your tire plants, car plants, battery plants, wonderful things, wouldn't take away from them. I want to be great at recruiting agribusiness. So that's my first push, and there's 3 pieces there. One would be, we first start with our legacy companies that are here. Right? We go to the companies that are in agribusiness that may want or may have a desire to do something bigger and better and expand. So I think that's key. Second thing is we work with our stakeholders, again, like Farm Bureau and the associations and different marketing groups, to pick out who we target and go start building a relationship with them. And then I think the third piece of that, and that is you don't go recruit these companies by yourself. You have to show up as a team, and that team involves agribusiness, but it may also involve your power company or your water company or the local town or whatever it is. You've got to build a team that starts to build that relationship to where those companies will want to spend a lot of money. We're a great place to live. We're the number 1, number 2, number 3 state in the nation for people relocating here. So I think we've got something good to sell. We just have to go do it.
Thank you. Mr. Blanding.
On day one, I think for me is being able to create a pipeline program, right? So how do we actually get from production to the people? In order to do that, you have to bridge that gap with processing, and procurement. And we don't know the gaps that we have if we don't recognize or analyze them first. Again, I'm a policy nerd, so my background, my master's in public policy. And so I believe in assessing the situation first. And so the first step is being able to first assess, convene our universities and work with our State Department to be able to figure out what are the gaps and what are the fractures we have in our foundation that we need to fix. The second part is convening our farmers, working together with farmers, local governments, and local community leaders and infrastructure and business leaders to figure out how do we do this together? And what are the problems that we're facing on the ground? And then how do we actually fix them? And then the third part of that is just actually laying out a plan, 6-month or three-year plan for the next 3 years of how do we actually effectively accomplish this goal? How do we build that pipeline from production to the people, the processing, and the procurement in the middle? And I think that starts with analysis, again, as a policy nerd.
Thank you. Mr. Nelums.
Yes, I think the first 6 months would be administration and dealing with sales. I will also look closely at those that untapped resource that we have. One of the things that get I guess frowned on is our black farmers in the state of South Carolina. Our black farmers are really suffering, and so I would spend a little time trying to undergird them and get them to a level, and that's important because at the end of the day, we're all working together, and they will be able to help what's going on in South Carolina and strengthen South Carolina. That's a commodity and a resource that we really hadn't tapped on properly. And I promise you, you will see great results in the state of South Carolina in terms of food growth, in terms of food, the inadequacies of the shortage that we're going on. We'll be able to wipe that out or close to wiping it out. And our communities will be strengthened. So we have to me personally, I think if we did that, it would probably strengthen all that we did. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Cannon?
Yes, my favorite class at USC was strategic business. I believe that the first 6 months we have to have a strategic plan. We need to figure out, do some SWOT analysis. We need to figure out what our problems are, what our issues are. I'd like to meet with farmers, with agribusinesses. Where can we help the most? Meet with consumers. Talk about food safety. Talk about things that they want. What do they like to see us grow? And then ultimately, I'd like to see us meet with the General Assembly and even spend some time in D.C. And let's talk about these are the things that we need you to do to promote South Carolina agriculture, to promote South Carolina business, and to make us sustainable for years to come.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let's have a round of applause for our candidates. All right, that concludes our forum. I would like to invite everyone to join us for a reception. We'll be outside on the patio here, and I think our candidates will be around if you have some other questions that you would like to ask them. But again, thank you so much for attending. Thank you for your attention. And, oh, please, Commissioner, come.
Let's give Farm Bureau a hand for putting this on today. I got here, and let me say this, I'm going to go back 20 years. Every candidate on this stage is probably better prepared than I was when I had the privilege to become your commissioner. They probably know it, but they are asking you to give them the best job in South Carolina. You get to work with the finest people. You work to put the finest people around you to do some of the things that the department does. And a lot of times you just stay out of the way and let them do their job. But this state, we're all one big family. Who remembers the TV show Cheers? They say where everybody knows your name. In this state, everybody knows your name. We all know each other. So the commissioners will be a well-known person. I want to say I admire each of you. I wish all of the candidates were here, but I wish all of you the best of luck. I appreciate that you're giving your time to seek this position and the importance that it will have. When I give my little stump speeches about agriculture, we always say it ties South Carolina's past to the present day, but more importantly, the future. What does the future hold? That's why they want this, the position and the responsibilities. Where is it going to go? Well, that depends on all of us in this room. Pulling together, prioritizing it, raising the profile, everything that these really good questions too, that have been asked. So it's your job as voters and advocates of agriculture to hear what's been said, analyze it, see where you think it should go, and communicate to people. The first slogan I had for several campaigns, ask any farmer, because you know what percentage of people produce for everybody else. It's less than 2%. But that 98% is going to count on you to say, well, who's the best person for the job? So thank you for giving your time. Thank you, Farm Bureau, for putting this together. And now it's our responsibility to pass that message to that 98%. But again, good luck to each of you. Thank y'all for letting me have the privilege of doing this job for a few years now. Thank you.
All right, so please help yourself. Candidates, we'll let y'all go ahead and go out onto the patio. And, yep, don't forget your mics.